Well, a very good evening. Thank you so much for making time to be with us. My name is Victor Wanyama. We start by taking a look at the stories that we have for you in our headlines. The Ebola threat. What is the government doing? We look at the merger between the government of Kenya and the European Union's partnership to conserve water resources. Welcome. Now, the county of Nairobi has put up stringent measures in order to deal with the threat of the Ebola virus. The measures include training of at least 24 health workers and a further 4 trainers to be dispatched to the sub-counties, as well as setting up special quarantine wards in selected county hospitals. Irene Galgalo's report follows.
Barely days after a woman collapsed and died at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport in Nairobi, fueling rumors of Ebola in the country, the county government of Nairobi has now put in new measures to curb the spread of Ebola in Nairobi.
Kenya being a hub in Africa in terms of trade and travel, we have to be well prepared in handling any case that may occur.
Dr. Robert Ayisi, the Chief Officer, Health Services in Nairobi County, says the county has embarked on an intense sensitization process on the disease.
We have sensitized people. We have trained 120 health workers on how to handle Ebola. We have equipped our high-volume hospitals.
He also says that the county has equipped hospitals with the necessary equipment to be able to contain the virus in the unlikely event that the virus is reported in the county.
We have equipped our high-volume hospitals, Mama Lucy, Mbagathi, with the gears for the staff to use in case we have a case of Ebola. We have identified Mbagathi as a hospital we can use in containing or handling an Ebola case, because the national government have put up a ward near Kenyatta National Hospital.
But just how can you identify an infected person?
In case they get into contact with somebody who has fever, who has a headache, muscle pains, diarrhea, who may have traveled from these areas I've mentioned, areas from South Africa, then the person must be handled and handed over to host authorities.
The government has set aside funds to help in the process of sensitization and training.
It is a budget of about 4.8 million that has been disbursed from the central level for coordinating, and the sub-counties. Each sub-county has been allocated some money for training of staff, for sensitization of the staff, and for sensitization of the people in the sub-counties.
With reports of the Ebola-related Marburg virus in Uganda, the county government has assured Nairobi residents of the same amount of focus on it as with the Ebola virus.
And the Ebola threat story brings us to the question of the day. Would love to know from you, is government doing enough to curb the threat of Ebola in Kenya? Is government doing enough to curb the threat of Ebola in Kenya? Do SMS us your responses to 20058 and we get to sample some of them at the tail end of our bulletin. Now, what comes to mind with a mention of Committee Maximum Prison? It is arguably one of the most dreaded prisons, not only in East Africa, but also the world at large. That said, the prisoners are making good of their time by contributing to the welfare of the economy. This is manifested by various entrepreneurial projects carried out by the prison department. Elijah Mwangi visited the correctional facility and has more details.
Life behind bars can be very depressing. You simply got to be creative and with a positive attitude in order to devise survival tactics. Those confined to life sentences must find a way of adjusting to the new environment. While a number of inmates find solace in activities such as music, others enroll in training programs where they are trained as professionals. Surprisingly, the skills gained through the various vocational courses that inmates have taken can be used in enhancement of economic growth in the country. For instance, taxpayers would have parted with 400,000 shillings per seat in Parliament. Government had intended to import the seats from China, were it not for the prison department that indicated it could make the same seats at a cost of 250,000 shillings each. Monday morning, and the Cabinet Secretary for Interior and Coordination, Joseph Olelenku, is ushered in at Kamiti Maximum Prison to mark another success story. The mission is to launch the making of modern number plates for vehicles in Kenya.
I'm pleased to announce that that target of acquiring that machine and appropriate technology has now come to be, and we will closely be working with the Ministry of Transport to finalize the framework within which a rollout of modern number plates will be produced through prisons.
The tamper-proof number plates are expected to go a long way in curbing rampant vehicle thefts, vehicle ownership disputes, and reducing crimes committed with stolen vehicles.
The features we are looking at are whereby you can see a road offender or a traffic offender, and from records link it to the IPRS and our databases to identify who is the owner of this vehicle, the offense, and even remit to a central point in KRA the fines that this person should pay.
The number plates will have a microchip technology, a security feature the government says will be hard to duplicate, and is part of a plan to modernize the motor vehicle sector through a project called the Transport Integrated Management System. The making of number plates behind bars here at GK Kamiti Maximum Prison is a clear indication that one is taken to prison as a punishment and not for punishment. The move is expected to raise revenue, especially in prison service, and also curb the rampant vehicle theft in the country. It is now upon Kenyans to embrace this new technology of having the modern number plates, and it will cost about 4,000 for the normal, that is the standard number plates, and about R1 million shilling for the customized number plates. Reporting for WTV News, I'm Elijah Mwangi.
And now we focus on an icon. Al-Amin Mazrui, who died at the age of 81, is regarded as one of Africa's foremost intellectuals. WTV tonight takes a look back at how the Kenyan academician and political writer managed to influence a post-colonial generation.
Born in the Kenyan coastal city of Mombasa on 24th February 1933, Al-Amin Mazrui always portrayed himself as a true patriot. He was an African scholar deeply involved in the fight for the freedom of his people. Mazrui's writing and thoughts are embedded in history.
So you can learn what is best in a Western civilization without being under the rule of Western masters.
He also gave an insight into some of the greatest concerns currently facing the world, as he wrote about terrorism and Islam. In 2005, Mazrui was selected as the 73rd topmost intellectual person in the world on the list of top 100 public intellectuals by Prospect magazine in the UK. He was a lecturer at the George University in Nigeria before moving to Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology during Kibaki's regime. At the time of his death, he was a lecturer at a university in the US. As curtain falls on the African icon, Africans and the world over can draw life lessons from his life and times.
Now, the European Union and the Ministry of Environment, Water and Natural Resources have today signed a joint agreement worth 3.5 billion shillings with the aim of protecting two of Kenya's natural water resources. Here's more.
The European Union and the Ministry of Environment, Water and Natural Resources have signed a joint 3.5 billion shillings for a period of 5 years. The Principal Secretary, Dr. Richard Lesiampe, said as a ministry, they will work together with the European Union in a bid to ensure that the two vital water systems, that is Mount Elgon and Cherangani, are conserved.
Particularly happy to say that we want to see, we as a government and of course the European Union, how best we can conserve our water systems. We have got very fragile water ecosystems in our country, and we are convinced that we have no option as a nation but really to find all mechanisms to ensure that we conserve and protect these fragile ecosystems.
He said the conservation plan will address the issue of conserving the environment to see the difference in the resilience of ecosystems as well as protect water supplies across 10 counties in Kenya.
Conserving and regulating Kenya's water towers will benefit tens of thousands throughout our 10 counties. Action is needed now to build long-term solutions to protect Kenya's future, agriculture and water supply.
Eric Habers, head of development cooperation at the European Union, was happy to partner with the Ministry of Water so as to generate solutions to Kenya's most significant long-term challenges.
We're working together already in the Mau area. When looking at the different water towers, these seem to be most in need of attention, so that's why we jointly basically decided that the focus would be on these two areas. That's not to say that other water towers, as the PS just mentioned, are not in need of attention. Notably, those in the north could be maybe in future also looked at. They're smaller in size. That's very clear. Given the amount of funds we have available for this program, we decided to focus on, let's say, larger ecosystems in this particular case.
It was a successful signing of a joint 3.5 billion shillings between the Ministry of Water and the European Union in a bid to improve the living standards of people as well as protecting the water resources for socio-economic development. Reporting for WTV, my name is Agnes Maina.
Well, just to remind you about the question for the day, we're asking, is the government doing enough to curb the threat of Ebola in Kenya? Is the government doing enough to curb the threat of Ebola in Kenya? Do SMS us your thoughts on 20058 and we get to sample some of them at the tail end of our bulletin. And finally, we focus on a sports champ, Victor Wanyama, Kenyan footballer who plays for English Premier League club Southampton and also captains the Kenya national team. Did you know that amongst the feathers in his caps, he was